And now I would like to invite the participants of the next panel discussion here on stage. Our moderator is Dr. István Szabó, Vice President of the Hungarian Research Network. And our panelists, Dr. Simone Rosini, Mr. Katalin Arany. And we also have a slight change due to an unfortunate flight cancellation. So on behalf of EIT, we have Dr. Tuan Trinh with us today.
Okay, does this work? Yes, this works. So good morning to everybody, and thank you for joining us on this panel discussion. Well, looking at the title of our panel discussion, I saw that it's basically second to solving the world's problems, basically, because we will try to find everything between economic growth, innovation, skills development, and everything, but that's something that S3 is about, actually. But before we would go in depth on the topics which are listed here, I would like to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. Maybe just a word about me and my connection to S3, that I was responsible for basically for both of the S3 strategies in Hungary, which the previous one and the actual one when I was vice president of the NRDIO. So I have some kind of glimpse what are the contents and what's the reasoning behind. But I think that our panelists will tell much more, and I would suggest that you just grab a mic and go ahead.
So this is why we should coordinate the discussion before, because I had the same start. The panel is about solving the world problem. So thanks for burning me that, but okay. So my name is Simone Rosini. I work at the European Commission in DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion, and in particular there I'm responsible and team leader for research and innovation. So I'm liaising with the colleagues of DG Research and Innovation concerning mainly Horizon Europe and in particularly Cluster 2, Culture, Creativity and Inclusive Society.
Hi, good morning. My name is Katalin Arany. I'm a project manager at the Hungarian Center of Excellence for Molecular Medicine. Short form is HSEM. This is both the name of the research institution and the acronym of a teaming project which brought the institution into life. Our researchers work every day to develop new diagnostic tools and to provide everyone healthy aging. I'd like to add that it is my first time as a panelist, and I'd like to thank this opportunity for the organizers, and I have to admit that the view is really nice from here.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm replacing my colleagues who have some problem with the flights, but actually quite the same. Miri Leinen, my colleague, is regional director for Northern Europe, and I'm Tuan Trinh. I'm regional director for Eastern and Central Europe. So basically, we are aligned. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you for the introductions. Well, the first topic is basically the skills for Europe's digitization. I think that all of us know that, yeah, we even have the Draghi report, which basically stated that Europe is lagging behind in competitiveness, and digitization will be obviously one of the topics where we could somehow excel. But personally, I have a feeling, and it might be just not just me, that we are trying to run fast, but the others are running faster somehow. And what are the potential responses, especially how could S3 actually, as regional partnership, help in boosting our competitiveness, especially when it comes to digitization? And I think all of you have some take on it. Because each of you is somehow involved in digitalization. So what's your opinion on how can basically Europe run faster in digitalization when we know that the other parts of the world are quite active in this field? We can go in a line, but yeah.
Maybe I would like to start because we are from EIT Digital, so we are from the European Institute of Innovation and Technologies, and within that umbrella, the knowledge innovation community focusing on digital transformation is us, EIT Digital. So maybe I would like to start with actually our motto at EIT Digital is there is no innovation without education. So that is. We work with the knowledge triangle, including the corporations, the research and university, and entrepreneur educations. And we believe that through 15 years of experience working with startups, working with entrepreneurs, we found out that creating a new ventures, boosting innovation is one thing. The other thing, and one of the most important things, that we have good talents to work in the startups, because startup fail rate is very high, 95% fail. And we believe that many times it is because they don't have the right people working for the startups. Even though creating them is a nice thing, good statistics showing to the government, showing to the bodies of different organizations, these good statistics that venture creation a lot, but they fail a lot. And we believe that the key point is the talents for the startup and for the companies, and that's why we believe that the education for Europe to catch up the speed of the other part of the world, it's have the right talents and it's the right pace for that. That is from our experience.
Yeah, and it involves somehow, I think, maybe a cultural shift, because in Europe we tend to be much less resilient to failure, actually. In the US they are much more open. And there are big initiatives, even in Hungary, like HUN-REN, which tries to actually establish a network in translational medicine. And I would like to hear on your experiences how things worked out, basically. So if this project was a success, and if you could go to the digital area as well.
We strive for digitalization, but we believe that we have to start with the training in order to reach this goal. We provide various training opportunities for the researchers and also for the research management staff. There are professional trainings. The researchers can broaden their knowledge in their respective field. We have soft skill trainings. It involves leadership training, conflict resolution, and also I would mention a third category, which I would call complementary training. It involves presentation techniques, publication methods, how to write better publications, how to present in a better way. So we really try to...
Do you use, for instance, AI as well? Because this is a phrase we have to touch upon anyway.
Yes, the research groups use AI frequently. I believe that it will make the development faster. Because, for example, in microbiome research, you can analyze the results of the experiment way faster with the help of AI than with manual methods.
And maybe just another follow-up question. Do you use kind of data repositories which are open to others as well? Because in Hungary, you might know or not, we have a major initiative regarding open science. And we try to, actually at HUN-REN, we are making a data repository which is open basically to everybody, actually, and our plan is basically to extend it to the whole academic sector. So that's why it would be interesting. What's your experience in this? Do you use it? Do you share your data openly, or how does this look like?
The HUN research groups are supported by 4 ACFs, and the 4th ACF has just been finished. It's the computational technologies ACF, which is basically a huge room full of servers, which provide data storage facility, and also help in running those softwares, which help analyzing the data. Firstly, it will be for HUN data storage, but there are already initiatives to have connections with other research institutions who need a storage space. For example, the Eli Razor Center that is next door to the HSEM. And we are connected via landline cable. And we will be the second place of their repository for emergency cases.
Okay, and what's the Commission's position on the whole digitization and competitiveness topic? I will put this strategic question to you.
I have 3 days, no? You said.
If you solve the problem, we will stay.
Yeah, okay, deal. So, I mean, there are a plethora of actions that we're trying to do, to try to implement so many initiatives in so many fields. But I think that the digitization is really like, you mentioned before, the Draghi report. It's really one point where Europe is lagging behind, especially in comparison to the US. So the Draghi report mentions that there are 270 billion less investment in the EU and in comparison to the US, and most of it, especially in the productivity gains that have been, the difference, the productivity gap between the EU and the US in the last 30 years is mainly explained by the difference in the performance in the digital sector. So I think it's really key for us to try to catch up in this part, in digitization, and as well in the green transition. So I think that the fact that the previous Commission chose these two fields is not by chance. And I think that they also explain quite well the importance of innovation, because innovation, in a way, is really, it's not only improving the processes, but it's also, or creating new goods, it's literally to create new markets. I mean, in the 60s, digitalization and green transitions were basically not a thing. And now they are the two main policy domains in which we are working. And so I think that we have to catch up in these two, but we also have to try to become leaders in new markets that we will create. Because now the US is leading in the digitalization, and China has such a competitive advantage now on the green economy. They manage through really what also the Draghi report is talking about, strategic independence. And what they did is, like, in the last 20 years, they secured so many of the spots worldwide where there are the raw materials, for instance. And now we are lagging behind also there. So in a way, it's the gap, we can close it, I think. We have to be more strategic. In a way, being a bit behind can help you in being the follower, because, I mean, you don't have to make so much investments as to open new markets as before, so catching up is a bit easier. But of course, we cannot continue to run after them, and we have to do something. So, like, for me, what struck me is also like, we invest a lot, we have a lot of startups, but they don't grow enough. So, and the investment in venture capital is so much lower. I mean, we have 18% of the investment in venture capital in comparison to the US. The public sector is investing a lot in Europe. It's very comparable to the US. But the private investment is lagging behind. And so also there, and it's way beyond my remit, and it's another sphere that we're not covering, but the capital market union will be incredibly important, because so far we still have fragmented capital market. And I think that a united capital market is an enabling precondition in order to boost the capacity of scaling up of startups and of companies. And just to close, it's impossible to have innovation and that leads to economic growth, and the Draghi report talks about, it's called competitiveness, but for me, I may die alone on the island, but for me it's much more on productivity rather than competitiveness. But without skills, this is impossible. Skills is the enabling condition. You can have developed the best tool in the world, the best service in the world, the best process in the world, but without the right skills in order to deploy this is wasted completely. And I mean, and this resonates very well with what the other panelists just said.
Well, there is a I would say, an untapped potential in the European Union, at least from my perspective. And that is basically, and it's just some figures, that in the Horizon 2020 funds, it is basically 85% of the funds went to the EU 15 countries, so basically to the west of the western part of the EU, and the rest, basically it was roughly about 5%, I guess. It went to the EU 13 countries. So it seems that Europe has, well, quite an, I would say, interesting distribution of when it comes to RDI funds, which is strange, because when we try to somehow find the answer how to actually develop further, we obviously should tap on these still untapped potentials. So first, I would like to ask you, Simone, on this matter. What's your position at all? How do you see it? And the others, that what's your experience in this? Can we provide some best examples, best practices, how to break through actually this sort of glass ceiling or perceived glass ceiling? Is it still there or not? Because this data is from, is some 4 years ago. The situation might have improved, and I think that this is one of the scopes of the Smart Specialization Strategies as well, that in line with the skills development, to show that the Eastern European, Central Eastern European part is a good partner basically for the Western countries and Western RDI actors as well. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, the data that I saw within the Commission, I think that lately, anyway, there is the situation is improving, and so I think it's good to be optimistic. But I don't think, having been part in evaluation, that there is a real glass ceiling, in a way. So I think there is also the problem that so many great researchers that have been here went to Western Europe universities or to the UK or to the US. So, but there is a lot of work to be done also at our level to try to avoid the brain drain. And I think in the latest year we have seen also a lot of brain gain, meaning the return to the original country. So like we saw a lot in Poland, a lot of Polish people coming back. We are starting to see it in Lithuania. I admit I'm guilty of not knowing exactly the situation for Hungary, but maybe you know better than me actually. So you will tell me later. But I think this will be ideal, like people that exchange information, learn from other systems, and then come back. And then, okay, it's on all of us, it's on all the member states to create the right conditions for them to come back. But I mean, here walking in the corridors, I've seen already so many students already that are international, that are doing the PhD in this school. So I think you have a good infrastructure to perform well. And then in the big scheme of things, it's true that Horizon Europe is a fund that, in aggregate terms, is more favorable to the Western Europe side, but it's also an exception. So my service, it's true that I work mostly with Horizon, but my Director General works mostly on ESF+. And the ESF is mostly for Eastern European, I mean, in per capita terms. ERDF, the same thing. So, and there, I think these are funds that can lay the ground for creating the perfect preconditions for more Horizon Europe Fund to be back, because they improve the skills, they improve the infrastructures, they improve the framework conditions, and then I think this will help in building upon this and having a higher success rate, maybe even in Horizon.
Okay, ITSAM is one of the teaming projects actually, which was granted to Hungary in close connection with EMBL basically. So, Katalin, could you tell your experience? how this project worked out, how EMBR can act as a potential partner to boost not just ASEM, but potentially actually the Hungarian ecosystem around the translational medicine.
Yes, HSEM is the advanced partner, AMBL is the advanced partner of HSEM in the teaming project. It gives us the opportunity to get knowledge from them, to learn their best practices. Lately, our cooperation intensified in grant writing, in the grant writing field. They consult us, or they help us writing a better project. There is a colleague there who is assigned to check the grant proposals of the researchers to make it better. They have so many suggestions how to make it better. So I really hope that it will help in raising the success rate of receiving direct European funds at HSEM. You mentioned the brain drain. We had the opportunity to call back really talented young researchers from abroad. 3 or 4 research group leaders were previously working in Western European or countries or in the United States. And because of the HSEM project, they got the opportunity to found their own research group in Hungary, so they could move back, and we hope that they will stay here on the long run.
Yes, actually, brain circulation is a method which we would like to see, actually. So, for instance, at HUN-REN, we say, or we tell our researchers that it's good and it's quite beneficial, actually, if someone goes abroad, gets some experience, but after that, we would like them to return, actually, obviously. It's also an issue not just for digitization. It might be a totally different discussion topic, but I have to tell you that the number of scientists actually in the western part of the world actually is decreasing as well, because less and less people are choosing the STEM fields. We all know that, and this is obviously a challenge as well. So, and the best research institutes again try to get the best researchers from all parts of the world. And I would say that we are, again, totally fine with that. We just would like those guys to come back. And when it comes to EU's competitiveness, I would like to ask the EIT perspective on closing this gap I mentioned. So how do you see this? In Hungary, we many times see or discuss with people from the innovation ecosystem who would expect EIT to become more active in the region, actually, as well. But because EIT is located actually here in Budapest, so it would have very beneficial impacts. But for some reason, and frankly, I don't really know why, but it still don't have that huge impact which were expected, I would say, previously when we agreed upon placing EIT in Budapest. But going beyond that regional perspective, how do you see EIT's role, especially with such a low-hanging fruit as in digitization, and how to improve actually this competitiveness gap?
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a very good question to be addressed here, and maybe it also linked to your previous questions to the panel about the percentage of the funds, how it was distributed. And you mentioned the 15 countries received how much and the other. I think that the problem or the issue, I would not say that is a problem. As far as it's efficient, as far as makes the competitiveness of Europe increase, it's good. On the other hand, there is an inclusiveness of the spectrum that could be addressed in a different way. But I would like to talk rather about the solutions that is at hand at EIT. At EIT, you have the regional innovation schemes, which focus on the countries with the score, I mean, the score in the scoreboard, an innovation scoreboard. Yeah, and then we focus very much in this area. The EIT, I think this is one of the flagship initiatives at EIT to boost the innovation capacity in the regions of Central and Eastern Europe and Western Balkan countries. So we call the regional innovation schemes, including the southern country in Europe. So that is something that I would like to share, that we have very different program. One example to mention that is a Jumpstarter program to support startups company from the risk countries to increase their capacity and found the companies here in the place. Not to go to the other part of Europe and other part of the world to create your companies, but actually here, because keeping the talent at home is very important. It's important in many sense. It's important for the region, but it's also important for the other regions of Europe. So because, there is a couple of issues we have with this. And then that is something I would like, that's one solution is that. The second solution that we have is increase the deep tech skills in this area as well. Because the initiative, because of the innovation agenda just introduced last year by President von der Leyen. And then the activities that we have at EIT is to have 1 million, to train 1 million deep tech people here in Europe. And we focus very much in this area. So we have different programs to increase and to boost this part. So there are solutions, concrete solutions and approach and initiatives that are being carried out at EIT and focusing particularly on the first question on your side. The second question is about how to boost competitiveness and EIT roles in this. I think that the Draghi report has two things. One, competitiveness. The second is the tool to make it happen is digitalizations. So that is something that, on the one hand, we at EIT Digital, we particularly involved and engaged with this, solutions. But on the other hand, there is an AI initiative in the EIT and also in EIT Digital, the artificial intelligence, and how that can boost economies. Because at the end of the day, that is a very disruptive technology that who wins, like the winner takes all, but yeah, almost all, not all. But I would say that that is something very much focused here at the EIT and EIT Digital in particular, because we focus on deep tech and the technology transformation with focus on digital transformation. Because, it will significantly change the workforce and the new job, the future of jobs. And then we believe that that has a direct consequence to the competitiveness of the continent and worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, just to give you some interesting facts regarding Hungary's digitization, actually, and our position, I just learned that in one of our counties, actually, 30% of the SMEs don't even have a website. Okay, so I guess that there is quite a room for improvement, and the point why I put this figure on the table is the SME strategies, and I think that for SME strategy, when it comes to S3, it makes only sense if there is, I would say, an audience which can use actually the capacities of these large-scale infrastructures. When it comes to research infrastructures, I think that they are a very good example of how Europe can cooperate actually around major topics. ESPRI is basically about organizing researchers, organizing innovators around certain thematical fields. But at least what I see, that now they are slowly transitioning in a way that Europe doesn't want to build these huge infrastructures anymore necessarily. Of course, there will be the large circular collider at CERN, but otherwise, most countries want to build something which is their own, and they want to operate it as a part of a network. And this might be actually a way where we could improve. And yeah, when it might be just my perception. So I would like to ask you that what's your opinion, how actually the development of research infrastructures in this network logic can actually contribute to the, again, to the competitiveness and to the innovation, and how the SMEs can be actually more involved. Because, for instance, when we planned to build a large-scale research infrastructure, but we did actually in Szeged, in case of Eli, most of the parts actually were bought from abroad, so were not provided by Hungarian companies, unfortunately. But this could be actually very good to improve the skills and the capacities of domestic companies. And you can obviously connect this to greater European networks as well, if possible. So the question again is, how can the development of research infrastructures improve the SMEs, digitization, competitiveness, etc., and even the cooperations in Europe? Yes.
May I start, and I will give back to my colleagues, because you mentioned a couple of things that I would like to respond. The first thing that you mentioned about some companies here in Europe don't even have a website. And that's particularly related to the skills, because, for example, generative AIs can help you to create websites already. One prompt, you put in a few sentences from your company, and generative AI, ChatGPT can generate for you the websites. So skill is important. So you teach people these skills, and it's done in a couple of minutes. You teach a skill in maybe 1 week, it's done in a couple of minutes, and it changes situations. So solved. For the second question, it's much more subtle and much more comprehensive. I would like to take one example to mention an initiative that I think that could have a potential answer to your question here in Europe. It's a joint undertaking initiative from the Commissions. And I would particularly like to emphasize the high-performance computing joint undertaking. We call Aero HPC initiative. Why I mention this? Because in 2023, in the State of the Union speech from the presidents, she mentioned about the AI initiative. And there's two things here in the initiative. One thing that we need to provide, to offer our SMEs and innovative teams to the research and computing infrastructure they need. Because working with AI, you need computing infrastructure. And this is the HPC joint undertaking, trying to build a European-wide high-performance computers across Europe and connect them together. Lumi in Finland, in Italy, we announced a house, Seneca running the Leonardo, yeah, and you have in Bulgaria one, you have one in Czechia, and you have actually 2 in France and in Germany as well. So that is under building and massively building. For example, Lumi is one of the best high-performance computer in terms of green aspect. It's not only compute efficiently, but it also computed in the green way. And exactly that's our panel about. It's about digitalization and green transition. So actually there are very, promising areas that Europe is top of the world. Not only running after the other continents. An example is a green HPC. I think that Europe is still leading the world in this area, and that we need to emphasize to find it as a best practice that we can continue to be leading edge. And the second thing is AI from the data and algorithms point of view. AI is a machine. And then I'm privileged and I'm very proud to be part of the AI initiative called the AI Grand Challenge. It's the first Grand Challenge in Europe. The AI Boost project is running that program, and we at EIT Digital is partner in this program. We run the Grand Challenge in AI to find the best AI solutions solving the challenge of Europe and the world. And last year we just successfully actually this year. We started last year, and this year we just successfully found 5 companies in large language models, solving the language issues, but also the application is to the real world, and effectively applying it to healthcare, applying it in mobility, applying it to manufacturing. Those are the key sectors that could pose the competitiveness of Europe in the future. So I think that there are good examples here in Europe, and EIT Digital and the EIT is taking part in this initiative. So not only the competitiveness, not only just to think negatively that we need to chase somebody. We need to focus on, from our side, that we need also to focus on our strengths. And their strength we need to identify and lead it with example. And I think that is another viewpoint, in addition maybe to the Draghi report, because it asks us a lot of very frank and honest questions, but also that the other side, that we need also find our strengths and lead it with example and show the world. That is my point of view. Thank you very much.
Katalin?
When we talk about research infrastructure, I think the key word needs to be sharing. Maybe it's not only in Hungary, but I see the tendency that every research institution, every university would like to have their own best of the best equipment. At HSAM, that is why we established the Advanced Core Facilities system. Each core facility is specialized in a field. For example, one is in vivo imaging, the other one is microscopy, the third one is mass spectrometry. These are all really expensive equipment, so they could not have it at every institution. But that is the upside of the community which we built at HSAM. They can use it, they can share it. They meet many times a year, so they have a really lively connection with each other, which helps the cross-fertilization between the research groups and between different research fields. We mentioned the EMBL as our partner. They have state-of-the-art facilities, core facilities, which we can use, and it's not only the HSAM which can use the EMBL, because Hungary is a member state, and every Hungarian institution can use their facilities for a cheap price, which is cheaper than any other solution which you can reach on the market. It is not well used in Hungary. So many institutions don't know about this opportunity. That is why EMBL started a road show to emphasize how important it would be to use their facilities, because Hungary pays the membership fee. So it would be good not only for the country but the research institutions as well to exploit this partnership.
Okay. Yes, and what's your takeaway?
It's difficult to respond to this after these two interventions, I have to say, because but more or less what I had in mind with when you made the question was something a bit similar. I mean, I think there is a lot to be built upon on the infrastructures we have. The supercomputing is true. We have so many member states with supercomputer. I was talking with the attaché, let's say, in Brussels of the Italian supercomputer, and it was like, it's so powerful. I mean, it's top 10 in the world. I think it's 4th, the Italian one, and was like, but we really need to have someone that manages to create something out of it, because it's, and I have the feeling there is this gap a bit. We have the supercomputer, but sometimes we do not have the link for companies to reach there. I mean, do they have, and so I think also there, the lack in digital skills for me is something that comes back and back all the time. There is a bit of communication, I think, like they don't even know that there is this possibility. They don't know how to approach it, but I think there is a bit of gap. And for SMEs, This thing of the supercomputer for me is maybe more glaring, because maybe they don't have the capacity to have someone that is so much invested in digital, unless you are SME working on digital. I mean, and I remember the first time I downloaded WhatsApp 15 million years ago now, I guess. And it was like, I was checking, okay, so what is this WhatsApp? And I read like the company, and it was like 48 or 58 employees before it was bought. And I was like, wow, this is literally a small company, and they are taking the world by storm, and everyone is its own. So, I mean, it's not that per se MSME cannot deal with a breakthrough technology in digital, or I think also in green. It's that we need to have the communication, we need to have the capacity to exploit it, that we need to have the right level of skills. Yesterday I was saying like 4 out of 10 adults in Europe do not have basic digital skills. I think this is something that we need to correct, and we have a strategy an objective at the European level in the EU Digital Compass to have it at 80% by 2050. But I mean, it's a tall order, and we have to do it all together. I mean, and ESF is trying to do its part. I mean, with it leverages its 40.4 billion euros ESF plus, and it leverages up to 68.8. So I mean, we are trying to do our part. Of course, it's something that has to be, every actor in the system has to be involved.
And what's your opinion regarding skills development? Because we mentioned totally different levels, I would say, of skills. At a certain point, we need to develop maybe the researcher skills or the innovator skills to be better and to be more efficient. But at the same time, on the other end of the scale, we are struggling with guys who don't have the basic digitalization literacy, or companies who don't even have a website. Are there any differentiated strategies to address these topics, or everybody gets what they get, basically, so a single solution? Are there any differences between the target groups?
Oh yes, I mean, the problems are vast. There are different skills level needs, of course. I think, for instance, ESF is a European Social Fund, ESF Plus, so it works mostly with low-level skills. I mean, we are focusing on the base, so we're talking about basic skills across the board, not only digital, but also for integration of migrants, for categories a bit less represented in the labor market, or like a bit more fragile, like elderly, younger, women, people with disabilities. But then we have, like in Horizon Europe, just an example on the top of my head, in Cluster 4, Digital Industry and Space, I remember in Work Program 21-22, the space part had 3 specific topics on skills for space, because it's really, and there, as you can imagine, is a very, very high level and very specific. So there are different calls, there are different tools that we are using. I mean, InvestEU, as it's also is line, Life as a program for skills in the health domain. So EIT is working a lot on skills. I mean, it's in everywhere they have the kicks. They're working on this. So maybe it makes sense if I pass, because you know better than me for sure.
Yes, please.
Yes, maybe I would like to share concrete examples from one KIC, is digital KIC, Knowledge Innovation Community. So at EIT Digital, in education and skills, we have the master school, EIT Digital Master School programs, which we believe that it's unique in Europe and potentially also unique in the world. Why? Because this 2-year program offers the students not only the deep tech competence and engineering skills, but we follow the T-shaped model of education, that deep knowledge of engineering and also the soft skills, including the entrepreneurial skills. For the student, when they come out, they can have the ability to create ventures, but also initiate innovative programs in the companies that they are working on. So that is what we call the T-shaped model of educations. And also the mobility, because it's a requirement at EIT Digital Master School Program. It's that the student has to study in 2 different universities in 2 different countries, and including 1 summer school, which is a requirement, it's the 30 ECTS for education, entrepreneurs, education, and that is a requirement. And we give the student at the end 3 things. 2 diplomas and 1 certificate from the EIT that recognize their entrepreneurial skills, and 2 diploma from 2 different universities that they study in. Because we believe that once the student finishes the university and graduates, they have not only the technical knowledge, but also the entrepreneurial skills, including understanding the cultures of Europe. And we believe that it's very important in business, understanding the local cultures and utilize its benefits from that and make things happen. That is the way we work at EIT Digital on the master school program, and that is unique in Europe. In addition to this flagship program on master school, we also have the skills, upskill and reskilling program. We call professional schools, where we offer the workforce of Europe who are professionals, but you know that digital world changes very fast, and you need to upskill and reskill yourself very much. In particular, the COVID time. So COVID time is actually the accelerations of this awareness that you have to know. Otherwise, when unexpected thing happens, it could create catastrophe. So that is the alarming effort the COVID brings in. And that's why we have the skills and on AI, on cyber security. We believe that is the crucial skills for the workforce in the futures. Knowing how, for example, I mentioned to you that if you know generative AI, a website is in the minutes. Mm-hmm. But if you don't, you wait for months. You don't have it. So that is one way. And cybersecurity is why it's so important. You know, that when we move to the digital space, mm-hmm. to the camera world, so now you can see the deep face that AI generates to you. So on the one side, it provides you opportunities and convenience. On the other side, it's a risk to be in the digital world. So that's why cybersecurity is crucial. And you can know that you can see that safety and cybersecurity is not on. It's very, very important right now, given the current state of the global situation. But also when you go to space, mm-hmm. you know that the control of outer space is almost zero, and then that's why we need to have secure communication with the space. And those are the things that we believe at EIT Digital and also at the EIT that the AI, cybersecurity, and the key digital skills are so important, and that's why we offer these courses. We offer the upskilling, reskilling program, and offer them to not only to students but also to professionals and SMEs, because the startups they need to learn quick, fast to learn, and so that is the solution and the initiative at EIT and the EIT Kicks Digital for this challenge.
Okay, and Katalin, from the Research Institute's perspective, what are the skills that the researchers seem to be, well, I wouldn't say missing, but need to be improved when it comes to digitization? Are the topics which were discussed on the list, or they are already very good in, I don't know, AI, or how does it look like?
Our research groups are really amongst the best in Hungary. And they work on a field where the cooperation with foreign researchers are a key. Therefore, their skills in digitalization is quite advanced. However, we encourage every research group to involve PhD students and also master students into their groups who need these kind of trainings. We don't have an in-house training for this, but we work together with big companies, big trainer companies from Europe who teach them these skills. Because in order to have a successful research group, every member needs to have a certain level of digital knowledge.
Did you ever consider using any of these initiatives which were mentioned? Because it seems to be logical actually to use this. Or were these on your radar?
Exactly.
It's not a problem, just a feedback.
No, actually we use the T-shape, as you mentioned, as you named it, because we educate them not only for the professional skills, but also the soft skills, because one cannot work without the other. You can have a perfect research group leader who is the best in his field or in her field, but if that research group leader cannot build a research group, cannot work together with young researchers, then that's a failure in the end.
May I have maybe as a final remark on skills here? It's when you talk about the T-shape, yeah, it's important to have this for the entrepreneur mindset of the learners. I was not the learners rather than students, because we all learn. That is lifelong learning process that we believe that is crucial in this digital world. Recently, we also work on a new initiative, which we call is the ethical aspect of educations and technologies. Because now in our education program, we try to embed the ethical aspect, because, you know, that is, for example, when you talk about AI, it's very important that AI is transparent and responsible. The responsible AI is very important because, you know, it can create havocs and it can work against humanity. I would say that, yeah, if you don't use this responsibly. And even that we train engineers, we are working on an initiative that embeds ethical aspect. We call the ethical use of technologies. It's very important, not only to develop technologies for the well-being of humanity, but also how to ethically use the technologies that we've developed to make sure that it really serves humanity and society. That is one more thing that I would like to mention, that is a new initiative at EIT Digital, that's the ethical use of technology in our education. So we train engineers in that way, not only to be top-notch in technologies, not only how to apply technology for business, but also apply it and use it in an ethical way. That is also the expectation from us to our students who can graduate from our programs.
Actually, the Hungarian Research Network, we have a dedicated program which is called AI for Science. And there we try to train our researchers actually for the use of AI. Especially obviously when it, by the name of the program, when it comes to science. And we have certain ambassadors, AI ambassadors in the network, who they can contact, and actually they will share their insights, the most current trends, and they will try potentially to connect with major European initiatives as well. Well, since we are running out of time slowly, I would have a last question, and it's quite a strategic one. And it just crossed my mind that when we put together the Hungarian Smart Specialization Strategy, it was back in 2020, if I remember correctly. And back then, actually, phrases like green transition and AI were simply not present. Or, well, they were present, obviously, but for instance, in Hungary, we put rather the circular economy in the place. Now we obviously would put green transition instead of it. And there was obviously not AI, but digitization was one of the topics as well. So how these strategies impact, in your view and from your perspective, well, not your everyday work, but I would say your overall activities, especially since the world is changing so fast that when we try to put together strategies for 7 years, they obviously will change by the 7th year, actually. And yeah, through the EDP, we try to constantly reform it somehow, but still the cornerstones are mostly quite set when we began this journey. So from your perspective, how can such a strategy really influence your activities? Or when it comes to major organizations, how can this influence potentially regional developments? Yeah, you can begin, or yeah.
Well, from our side, I will say that we are on the receiving end in a way. I mean, because smart specialization is something that is inherently linked with the context. And trust me, I cannot cover all the European regions and their specialities. So I mean, I'm a curious observer of what happens, but they are context-based and they are relation-based. So if it works well, it's a cohesive and a coherent approach between different layers. I mean, between the private sector, between the government, between the research and the universities, and every region has its own speciality and its own strengths, and this evolves in time. I mean, and then it's a strategy. So as you said, it changes. Like. We made the strategies in 2018, 2020 for the period to 2021, 2027, and then COVID arrives, and then Russian invasion of Ukraine arrives, and other things. I mean, and of course, it's a strategy, so you don't know. I mean, you plan, and it's important to have an objective, I think. And then, I will say, I don't want you to get me wrong, but let's say sometimes they work in a way well, because digitization, I think it worked well as a strategy with COVID, because it made even more obvious that having these possibilities would have unlocked potential, would have allowed us to continue in a less disruptive ways our life and our working possibilities. And similarly, the green transition, again, green transition work well with Russian invasion, but the idea that we have to disengage with Russia in terms of buying energy from them, it matches well with the objectives we had of the green transition before, which is like becoming more independent, relying more on green energy, and this in a way when these things exploded, I remember that EU leaders were in a much better position than they would have been 3 years before, had there not been this investment, this head start in investing in green technology, in solar, in wind, and the maritime energy, and so on. So then you adopt the strategy. The future, nobody knows the future. But having a strategy, having a direction, and having the possibility to adjust, and normally this is the case. Be it in every program, there are always the clauses, there is always some margin to adjust for it. But having a vision serves anyway to give directionality to what you do.
HUN-REN is conducting research on a health-related field. The core mission is providing healthy aging for the society. Maybe it sounds like it has no connection to the green transition, but I believe it does, because, as I mentioned, we develop diagnostic tools, or that is the aim, to develop diagnostic tools, which makes it possible to detect diseases in an early stage, with avoiding having a severe disease. The healthcare system can be eased. One more step ahead could be the advancement of the microbiome research, because with the microbiome research possibilities, you could detect the disease or the risk of the disease before it even appears in the system, in the human system. That could lower the financial burden of the healthcare system because of the costly cures. It is much easier to cure a disease or avoid a disease, it is cheaper than having very expensive therapies after you have a severe disease.
It's talking about strategy is difficult. So I like very much Simone, what you mentioned. It's important to have strategies, but we need to also be agile enough to adapt to the changing of sequences and the unexpected things that happen. You mentioned two very much unexpected things, and which has a huge impact and consequence to the strategy that we have, right? Now, when you design strategy, you have some priorities. I think strategy is about priorities, right? What are the priorities? We have many important things, but still we need to prioritize. That is strategy. And come into new things, you need to change those priorities. And well, I believe that strategy you mentioned is somehow is related to a country, to a regions, to a continent, and beyond, which normally has a cycle. You finish your terms and then things change. You have new strategies because new terms, new government, new bodies. But innovation hasn't got a terms. Innovation hasn't got a cycles. It has, but much longer. And so that I believe that there is a risk in strategy in that sense, because you plan 4 years for strategy, you start 5 years strategy. The world, I mean, our life is not like that. And one way to, like in investment, when you invest in things, we would like to have de-risking the investments in the risky ones. That's why we do venture capital. How venture capital can do risk the investment, for example. And I believe that one of the important things when we talk about strategy is that the public strategy should be somehow combined with the private world. It's a public-private partnership that I strongly believe that could work together to have the strategy to be efficient, because the public world has cycles and terms. The private world look for competitiveness and efficiencies, and it's different in the time scales. And to de-risk it and to combine the best out of each, it's a public-private partnership that I strongly believe that should be enhanced and engaged more in the future to make both sides efficient. That is from my contributions.
Yes, maybe just a comment on that, for instance, in the Hungarian S3, there is the public sector innovation as well. It's also a part, especially because just you mentioned. And at the same time, we also try to make a cultural shift when it comes to innovation. So that's why we have, for instance, a national laboratory for societal innovation, because we believe that somehow a transition in the minds should take place as well. I think that though we didn't manage to solve all the world's problems, so we made a small step maybe, or put our puzzle. I don't know how many pieces are there, so I just say that we put a piece to the puzzle. And with that, I would like to thank to our panelists and thank you for your attention as well.